please will you put your hands together to welcome Mary King.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And this is Imperial Cavalier, who I rode at the Olympics. And Archie, as we call him in the stable. So actually, it's very good for Archie to come here and listen to everybody clap at him, because that for him, he was very nervous. Yesterday, I did similar to today, 2 demos, and the first demo, when people clapped, he tried to shoot out of the exit, whereas he's getting more and more accepting the clapping. And that, for me, was the main worry of the Olympics of Greenwich, that in the dressage that I'd come into the main arena to do, with him trying to be cool and calm and collected, and then the crowd would cheer and clap, and he would stick his head in the air and get all excited, and then wouldn't be able to produce his best work for the dressage. But it was amazing how the crowd was so good, and I think, sort of, people realise that, what clapping can do to horses. And where I was very fortunate was my test, when they did the draw, it happened that I was going to be riding my dressage test just after a break, after a coffee break for the judges, which meant that I wasn't sort of following somebody in. If there'd been a German rider just before me, say, having done a really good test, I would have had to be going up that alley, down that alleyway into the main arena, just as the crowd were cheering and erupting for the dressage test before. But lucky for me, I was after the break, so I didn't have that to contend with. And I went in, and as I started to go in, the crowd started to clap and cheer, and I just was sort of looking at the crowd, doing this to everybody, and it was amazing how people realised, and they straight away did shush. And for Archie, that was so helpful for him to then have, nice and peace and quiet to go in and actually, do, which was his best test he's done at that 4-star level. Anyway, and it was so exciting. The whole Olympics was absolutely brilliant. I think my lasting memory of the games was that roar when I galloped across country. It was quite amazing how the crowds, really backed, all the riders, but especially the British riders. And when, I set off with Archie galloping along over the first few fences, the noise either side of us as we were galloping was absolutely extraordinary. And it was a bit like a Mexican wave, how the roar, as I galloped on around the course, you could hear the roar beginning, sort of building up as we went on ahead of me, so like a sort of wave ahead. Anyway, so all really exciting. And the only trouble that it brought was when you're galloping across country as a rider, the ideal thing is to gallop round, try and get just inside the optimum time, so you don't incur any time penalties. Because if you're over the optimum time, if you're a little bit slow, the time penalties build up very, very quickly. For each second, you get part of a time penalty. So the clever thing is to finish just inside the optimum time. You don't want to, it's nothing clever in going too fast and finishing well inside the optimum time. Because you're obviously risking it more when you're going across country. If you're going that bit quicker, they'll more easy to make mistakes, but also you're wanting to think you've still got your show jumping phase to do the following day, so you want the horse to be fresh as possible for the next day. So going really fast the day before, too fast, it gives them more chance of being slightly tireder the following day. So to finish just inside the optimum time is what you're after. And so you're very reliant on your stopwatch as you're galloping along. You wheel the course before. I would have walked the cross-country course 4 times at Greenwich, so I knew exactly where I was going, what line I was riding, and all that sort of thing. Plus, getting to know where all the minute markers are, so that I knew that, minute 1 was the big tree on the right after fence 3 or something, and knew where each minute was, and it was a 10.5-minute cross-country course. and then you gallop along, and every minute your watch peeps. And then you can sort of work out, oh yes, I'm passing the tree now as my watch is peeping, so good, I'm keeping to time. Or if your watch starts peeping a bit before, you're a bit slow, or if it peeps afterwards, you're a bit fast. But in Greenwich, I couldn't hear my stopwatch. The crowd was so loud. And of course, I couldn't, it's quite big, the lettering on the stopwatch, but it's not big enough at my age. I still couldn't see it. I needed to get my specs out and have a look, but I couldn't do that as I was galloping along. So anyway, so I just had to go at the speed that I thought was right. As it turned out, I was actually stopped halfway around the cross-country course. So because the rider ahead of me had had a fall, so we were held on the course. So in fact, your time goes out the window then anyway. But anyway, all good fun. And then the show jumping, knowing that Archie and we had to go into that main ring and jump a clear round for the team to maintain the silver medal. And God, how nerve-wracking is that when you know you've got to jump a clear round. I mean, he's a cool jumper. He's lovely. He is careful. He'll have the odd fence down, usually because my fault. But he's naturally a very good, clean jumping horse. But even the best of jumpers can just have a rail. So I just find, in that sort of situation where you've got, everybody watching you and all the, thousands and thousands watching on telly, hoping you'll jump clear. I just try and go into my own little sort of bubble, me and Archie, and we're there together, and just go in and just pretend I'm going into my arena at home, and I'm just going to jump round a course of fences. So just trying to sort of separate myself from all the thousands of crowds. Oh, but when I jumped that last jump and we'd jumped it clear and went through the finishing line, I knew I was all right for the time as well. Wow, what a feeling. Very exciting. So, anyway, Archie, he's 15 years old now, which is quite sad because that means he's getting older for eventing. Really, he should hopefully, he's touch wood, he's very sound and well still in his body. So he should go on next year. Hopefully he'll be able to have a full year competing next year. And then we'll just have to see how he feels as to whether he'll do anything more. But, 16 really is getting quite sort of to the end of their eventing career. And, it's important not to be greedy as a rider or owner, to think, well, we'll just do a few more events, and keep going then until something goes wrong. So very important. I think as soon as they start to feel that they're getting a little bit, say, maybe showing a bit of stiffness the day after an event, that's usually a sign of them getting older, or getting a bit reluctant about jumping. I found the older horses, they just start to get a little bit reluctant about jumping down big drop fences, as though, their body's older and a bit tighter. And I suppose like us, when we get older, it's not as easy to jump down off some steps as it is when you're young, and I suppose, your body gets older and a little bit stiffer. And that's what I've found has been, to me, the main indication when they're getting older is reluctant, getting just a bit hesitant about jumping down big drops. And then I think it's important to think, right, they're starting to tell me that they're feeling a bit older, so time to call it a day. But no, always very sad decision. Anyway, so Archie, he's Irish bred. He is a 7/8 bred type, which is, I like these bit slightly chunkier horses, so that they're strong. They've still got enough thoroughbred in them that they can gallop over a long distance and enough speed, but are just a little bit more substantial than a full thoroughbred. But everybody's different. There are a lot of event riders that only, like pure thoroughbred horses. But for me, I've always got on well with ones that are have a little bit of some other breeding in them as well. And that's what Archie's got.